Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast. I'm your host, Steve Creasy, inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly. Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, your podcast for Disney Cruise Line history, trip reports, and general travel planning for your upcoming cruises or vacations. Well, before we jump into episode number 2, I'd like to take a look back at my first episode on the Big Red Boat. And thanks to one of the listeners who pointed out that I made one mistake, I went back and listened to it again and actually caught 2. So as I stated before, I'm just an amateur historian, and I want to make sure that what I do put out there is accurate as possible. So I wanted to make sure I updated these mistakes that I did make in that first podcast. And as she correctly pointed out, Holland America is not actually owned by Royal Caribbean. Holland America is owned by Carnival Cruise Lines. And also the other one that I caught was, and I meant to say that both the Magic and the Oceanic being the Big Red Boat, were both built in Italy. And I said they were built by the same shipyard, and that is not actually true. Oceanic was, as I stated, built by Cantieri Riuniti del Adriatico in Monfalcone, Italy. However, the Magic and her sister ship, the Wonder, were actually built by the Fincantieri and Kona shipyard, also over in Italy. So I wanted to make sure that I got that correctly, or corrected that for everybody. Well, on to episode 2. This is going to be my first trip report, and it's going to go all the way back to May 29th, 2016. It's a trip that my family took to Norway on the Disney Magic out of Dover, England. And on that trip, we had just a great time meeting up with John Towler and his family, who we sat next to during dinner each night, and then ran into and had the opportunity to spend some time with on the ship. And after I decided to put this podcast together, I reached out to John because I thought he'd be a great person to talk to and hear his take, since this was his first Disney Cruise Line trip and also his first cruise experience. So I thought he could bring some really great insights to all of us out here as to what he thought about his experience up in Norway on the Disney Magic. So sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy this show all about cruising to Norway this last May. Okay, and so now I'd like to introduce to the show a friend of ours, or a friend of the family, John Towler, who we had the luck of sitting next to his family on our latest trip to Norway, and we're going to talk about our cruise to Norway kind of together, which was it May 29th when it left out of Dover, John?
Yep, think so, end of May.
Okay, awesome. Well, once again, welcome to the show. It's great to have you on.
Thanks, really glad to be here.
All right, and just to start off with a little bit of a background, could you tell us who traveled with you on the cruise to Norway this year?
Sure, so I'm John, and I travelled with my wife, who's called Caroline, and my 2 boys, who at the time we took the cruise were aged 10 and 6.
Perfect. And just kind of thinking back on it, what brought you to book a cruise to Norway? Because to me, it seems like that's kind of a little bit of a different type of cruise. It's something that I think people hear and they're like, wow, that'd be kind of a neat thing to go and do. But from kind of my perspective, most of the people that I've talked to, when they think about cruising, they think about the Caribbean or going someplace warm, maybe down in the Mediterranean. So why Norway?
Well, what you say about the Caribbean, that's kind of what started us off. So we have some friends who take Disney cruises every year, but they take cruises to the Caribbean. And like everybody, they take photos and they share photos on social media, and they absolutely love Disney cruises. So we were like, yeah, that looks fun. That looks like a really good thing to do. But the Caribbean's a long way to go if you don't really know whether you're going to like a cruise. So we kind of thought maybe for a first cruise, it would be better just to take a short cruise, something that's a week long, something that's in Europe, quite close to home. So we just started to do some research, and we found out Disney had one ship that came across to Europe every year and did some cruises around the Mediterranean, but also did a cruise up to Norway. And we thought that looked really interesting, and the dates worked out for us really well. So the cruise went at a time when the kids were on school vacation. The Disney cruise to Norway is a cruise that sails directly out of England, goes out of the port of Dover, so no need to take a plane to fly off to the first start point of the cruise. And Dover's like around a 4-hour drive from our house, so pretty easy to get to. So we liked it as an idea for a cruise. And when we looked into it, we found out that it stopped at 4 ports around Norway. All of those ports looked interesting. So conclusion seemed ideal for a first cruise.
Perfect. I guess I should have mentioned that initially, that John and his family live over in England. And you said you lived about...
We do. It's the accent.
You said you live about 4 hours from Dover?
Yeah, about a 4-hour drive, a couple of 100 miles.
Okay, so and from what I remember, you guys just drove down that day. Did you come down and stay in Dover, or did you just come down that day?
No, we drove straight down. I guess we wanted to get to Dover for midday, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, to try and get on the boat quite early. So we left 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, had a leisurely drive down. It was a Sunday, so not too much traffic out and about, and easy drive. We were in Dover by lunchtime.
Perfect. Yeah, when thinking back on it, we stayed in London for 2 nights and then came down the day the cruise left as well. And I kind of wish we would have actually come down to Dover and spent a night down there. I'm not sure exactly how big the town is, but the castle up on the hill looked pretty amazing, and it would have been neat to maybe go out and explore just the white cliffs of Dover too, get down on the beach.
Sure. Yeah, I think the castle's pretty nice. I'm not sure there's a huge amount else to see in Dover, to be absolutely honest. But I think, if you wanted to do a cruise in Europe from the States, actually a cruise going out of Dover's a really easy option. If you flew into London Heathrow Airport or even London Gatwick Airport, Dover's only a 2-hour drive from both of those airports. So Dover's an easy place to get to, even if you're flying into London from another country.
Oh, definitely. And it's a small port as far as the cruise ship portion of it, so it was pretty easy we just took a motor coach down, or a bus, and got off, and we were right on the ship pretty quickly. We took a cruise the other Disney cruise we took was out of Alaska, up out of the port of Vancouver, and that's actually a pretty easy port too, but it's right down in the middle of the city, kind of like if the port was like right in the middle of London, so it was pretty chaotic getting into and out of it. So yeah, Dover was definitely a really easy way to do it. So I totally agree with you on that. It's a pretty easy way to start if you've been to Europe before on a cruise.
Sure.
So this one's just out of curiosity. How did you book the cruise? Did you book it directly through Disney, or did you go through a travel agent, or how does it work over there?
To be honest, we just booked straight off the Disney Cruise website, and to be honest, it didn't really occur to me to shop around that much. And I think that's because we'd taken a Disney trip previously, so we had a Disney account already set up on the Disney website. So we were familiar with the website. We knew how to log in and out. We knew how to navigate around that website. So it was just an easy thing to do. We'd booked our previous Disney trip, which was to Disney World in Florida, straight off the website as well. Hadn't had any problems doing it that way. Had to contact Disney customer service team a couple of times, and whenever we'd had to do that, we got through to speak to a human being really quickly. They were fantastically helpful. So we'd always had a really good experience dealing directly with Disney. So just went straight on the Disney website. And, funnily enough, when you said to me, could we do this? And you'd said that a lot of people in the States do book through travel companies in the States because there are lots of deals where you get offered a few $100s spending money on the boat. That's right, yeah?
That's correct.
So I had a look around to see whether that same model exists in the UK travel industry. And for Disney Cruises, it doesn't seem to, actually. I couldn't find any really good offers of the same type that you guys could get in the States. So if you're in the UK, booking directly via Disney Cruise Line seems pretty much the easiest way to go, and not really any opportunities to save much money by shopping around.
Okay. Yeah, in the States, it seems like from my experience at least, you're not going to get a difference in the price from what a travel agent can give you through versus what's on the website. But what they tend to do is give a percentage of their commission back to you, possibly in $100 or a couple $100 here or there for onboard ship credits or whatnot. So
I couldn't really find that in the UK.
Yeah, so in the States at least, it's the price is really going to be the same. It's just whether an agent may or may not give you a little bit more extra money. So, well, cool. How much planning did you do before this cruise? And what did you use? Was it mostly on the internet, or were you familiar with Norway? Had you been up there before?
So I have been to Norway before, and of the 4 ports we went to on this cruise, I had been to one of them before, but it was 20 years ago. So my knowledge of Norway was pretty limited, I would say. I am a planner. I like to understand where I'm going and what's there. So we did a fair amount of planning, and actually my first stop was a really good website called Cruise Critic, which I think is a UK website. It's called cruisecritic.co.uk. Great site. All sorts of information about everything to do with cruises. So talks you through every single ship of every single cruise line company. So lots of good advice about the Disney Magic boat, which is the one we went on. All the restaurants, how all the restaurants work. Just some good background information to understand how an actual cruise ship functions and what happens on that ship. So I spent a lot of time on that. And there's also a huge amount on that website about excursions that take place in all the ports. So not necessarily Disney excursions, but say all the cruise ships that go into Bergen, the general types of excursions that take place, and people review them and say, yeah, good excursion, bad excursion, liked it, didn't like this. So a huge amount of really useful information on that website that I spent a lot of time looking at. I also spent quite a lot of time on TripAdvisor, just to understand in each port that we were going to, what were the most highly recommended attractions that you could go and visit in each of those ports. I also printed off maps of all the places we were going to visit, and for a couple of them as well, where I thought we would probably be having our lunch in the port, just had a little search around as well for what were the best places to go and find something to eat. So I'm a planner. I did lots of research.
Yeah, you and I are one and the same, I think, in that way. I did a lot of research, too, about the different ports and what we thought we might want to do once we got there. So I guess just to go back a little bit, we sailed on the Magic, and it left out of Dover. The first day was a sea day. And before we get into, I guess, the ports, what were your impressions of the ship? And then we can talk about maybe the restaurants and your stateroom as well.
So first impressions of the ship were very positive, actually. As soon as you walk on, so I had, because we'd never been on a cruise before, I didn't really know what to expect at all. You see pictures on the internet of these huge atriums, and so I kind of expected everything to be big, if you like.
Right.
So, and first impressions were, yeah, everything was quite big, but not enormous. And it didn't feel scary. It didn't feel like you were going to spend 3 days just working out how to find things on the ship. And I would say within the first couple of hours, we pretty much figured out where everything was and how to get around. The ship was spotlessly clean. We were welcomed on board the ship by the Disney team. So first impressions really good, actually, when we went on board. Very, very impressed with how modern and clean and up to date everything felt on the ship.
So pretty comfortable overall.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to talk about stateroom?
Yeah, and then what stateroom did you book, and what did you think of that?
So we had a deluxe family ocean view stateroom with a veranda, which was on deck 8, and perfect, I would say, pretty much perfect. Everything was in a good state of repair. We had one door which squeaked, and quick phone call, a maintenance guy appeared, and within 20 minutes it was fixed. So that stateroom sleeps 5. So it has a big queen bed or a king bed, can't remember, and then two bunk beds, and then a single pull down bed. So 4 of us, and the way we decided to do it, actually we decided not to use the top bunk, and we never had the top bunk out at all. So the 2 boys slept. One slept on the bottom bunk, and one slept on the pull down bed, and that worked absolutely fine for us. We liked the veranda. We used the veranda quite a lot. So we sat out there for an hour reading a book from time to time, And actually, of course, as you're coming into a port or leaving a port, veranda's a great place just to stand and watch and wave goodbye to the place you've just been to. So stateroom, brilliant. Really liked it. Absolutely perfect for us. And probably we felt worth paying a bit more money to have a veranda.
Yeah, especially on a cruise like that to Norway, where it's so scenic going through the fjords and into several of the ports. When we went to Alaska, we didn't. My parents had a veranda. So
okay.
we had just an inside stateroom. And so for us, it kind of works because we're kind of the family that likes to be out and about. Mm-hmm. And so we didn't feel like we missed too much of the scenery when we were up in Alaska. But I can tell you that we had a veranda room in the Norway cruise, and as long as we can afford it, I don't think we'll ever go back, because that's just a great way to be able to see everything, like you said, as you go into and out of the ports and really take in the scenery.
Yeah, I think even if you are busy, and we were really busy the whole time on the cruise, you're always going to have a bit of downtime. So, you might come back from breakfast in the morning and you've got an hour or so before you want to get off the ship, or you come back in the afternoon and you've got an hour or so before dinner. There's always some downtime. And to have the opportunity just to go and sit out on the veranda and just relax and, read a book for half an hour, that's just a really nice thing to do, I think.
Right. So let's talk about the food then. What were your impressions of the food and some of the different restaurants that we got to eat at?
So I think that's a very interesting question. So on the very first night, you will remember, as we were sitting together, that we were in Lumiere's, which is the French restaurant on board the Disney Magic.
Correct.
And our experience on that first evening was not great. The service was really poor, very slow, took the food a long time to come out. And the quality of the food on that first night was average at best, pretty poor, to be honest. And I was really worried, because people say, why do you go on a Disney cruise? You go on a Disney cruise because the entertainment is amazing, the quality of service is amazing, and the food's great. And I was thinking, okay, well, this is my first evening on the boat, and two of those three things, service and food, really not good at all. So I was very, very worried after that first night. The good news is it was a one-off, and it got much, much better every night thereafter. So for your listeners who don't know, you move around restaurants. There are three main restaurants on the Disney Magic, and you rotate around them each night of the cruise. And actually, other than that one evening in Lumiere's, the food and the service was really good in all of them. You keep the same serving team throughout. They follow you from restaurant to restaurant, and that's good, because as the week goes along, you obviously build up a relationship with those guys. They get to know you. They understand what you like and what you don't like. They start to play with the kids a bit and entertain the kids. So that whole experience of rotating around with the same service team, we really liked that. That was pretty good.
Yeah, I think they were just kind of off that first night, and I do have to apologize. I think we were late to dinner that first night, and my wife, or Anawake, and I were talking. We were wondering maybe if they were waiting before they served you until we showed up, thinking that maybe we were all traveling together. Maybe. So, but yeah, they were definitely off that first night. But I agree with you totally. It definitely got a lot better, and as the ship went on. Did you guys eat? What did you guys do for breakfast? Did you go down to the where they served you breakfast, or did you go to the Cabanas? No,
so we went to Cabanas, and I guess we were a bit worried about Cabanas. We'd read a few reviews on some of the websites that said sometimes quite a lot of queues at breakfast, maybe a little bit difficult to find a table easily to sit at, and we didn't experience any of that at all, actually. And we were pretty early to breakfast. We were probably in breakfast 7:30, 8 o'clock each morning, I guess. So we were pretty early, ahead of most of the crowd, but never any queues, easy to find a table. And breakfast we thought were fantastic, actually. Lots and lots of choice. Whatever you wanted. If you wanted a full cooked breakfast, you could do that. If you wanted a lighter breakfast, lots of healthy options, lots of fruit available. So actually, our experience of Cabanas, we went to Cabanas for lunch on a number of occasions as well. We thought Cabanas was pretty good, actually. For a buffet, for buffet food, buffet service, very good. Attentive waiting team, and I guess you'll have experienced this as well, Steve. The crew clearly, the service crew clearly have a lot of downtime. They work hard, but when they're not working, there's not a lot to do. And they obviously spend their time, a lot of them, learning tricks either magic tricks or folding napkins or whatever, just something to do, a new skill to learn that can entertain the guests. And we really liked that. We saw just some regular waiter guys doing some pretty amazing little magic tricks, actually. And that makes a meal when that happens. The kids love it. And that's what they remember. They don't remember that they had a nice waffle. They remember some guy came and did a really cool magic trick. That's what the kids remember.
Oh, definitely. I think it was in Ålesund when we went there. We did a excursion in the morning, and then we came back. And one thing that's just amazing about Norway, which I'm sure you'll agree, is the ship parked right downtown, so it was easy to walk into and out of the town.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so we got back from excursion, and we decided just to get back on the ship quick and have lunch, and then walk down into the town and do some exploring that afternoon. And during that lunch, one of the wait staff, his name was Ton. He called himself Tiger Ton, and he picked up on our little guy Alex, and he started doing all kinds of magic tricks, and was just kind of playing around with him. And like you said, that was definitely one of the memories that Alex still talks about today about our cruise. So
yeah, so it's just the little things like that actually make it special,
right? And kind of makes
so
you want to go back.
pretty. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to see Tiger do some more magic tricks. That would be fantastic.
Right.
So yeah, lunch is pretty good. I would say my conclusion on the dinners was it's pretty good. The food's pretty good. The service is pretty good. If you're expecting absolute 5-star restaurant quality and absolutely top quality silver service, it's not that good.
Right.
It's pretty good, but it's not absolutely top notch. Would be my, if people say where would you put it, it's good quality restaurant. It's not great quality restaurant.
Right, I agree with you there. And it seemed like that was that way across. Like you said, you got the 3 different restaurants. They all had their good points, and I'm not sure that one really stood out over the other than maybe the entertainment. Yeah,
I wouldn't say. I would say the food was a pretty similar level in each. One of the things that we probably was a learning experience for us. There's a menu that you're given for the adults, and there's a kids menu, and we didn't really understand for the first couple of days that the kids could just order off the adult menu as well. We were under the impression that the kids were supposed to order off the kids menu. And I don't think the kids menu is great. I think if I were Disney, one of the things I would do is try and make that kids menu just a bit healthier and a bit more variety. I mean, there is a healthy option, but it's kind of not very nice. Whole wheat pasta. Not many people like whole wheat pasta, really.
No.
So I didn't think the kids menu. I was pretty unimpressed with the kids menu. And by the end of the week, we were trying to encourage our kids to find something on the adult menu that they might like.
Yeah, it's pretty simplistic, and after 7 days, you're right, with the same thing over and over again, it gets kind of boring for them.
So that would be a bit of feedback. If the Disney executives listening to your podcast, Steve, that would be a bit of feedback. I think the kids menu could do with an overhaul to bring it up to what you'd get if you went into a good restaurant that catered for kids in a modern, healthy way. Right. I think Disney are trying to do it. They're just not doing it very well.
Right. And then the neat thing about it is when you get back, and I know that just through some previous correspondence with you, you can, provide these feedbacks to Disney. And it's been my experience in the past, not on this cruise, but in other things that we've done with Disney, where we've actually gotten comments back from them, or somebody's gotten back to us to respond to it. So I think they really do listen. Now, whether it changes as quickly as you'd like it to, I'm not sure, but that's definitely one of the things that you'd want to do is if there's something you're not happy with, let them know.
I could absolutely. Yeah, they won't improve it if people don't tell them.
Right. So let's go into entertainment, and then we'll talk about the ports a little bit. How about the entertainment on the ship? What did you guys do that kind of stood out?
Loved it. I thought for us, probably the entertainment was the highlight of the whole trip. And I guess the starting point is there was so much going on the whole time. And the way we played it is we tended to go, when we were in port, we tended to get off the boat pretty early, not long after the gangplank went down or they opened the doors and we could get off. And we'd go and do our exploring, and we'd be back on the boat sometime after lunch. And then we'd spend the afternoon getting involved in whatever entertainment was going on on the ship at that time, which was lots and lots and lots. There was always something to do. So we did lots and lots of quizzes, which we were really bad at.
But I think you got a medal in the end, didn't you?
Yeah, not for a quiz, though.
Oh.
I know nothing about Disney theme tunes. I know nothing about Disney movies, and that point was well proven on almost every day of the cruise. But there was some quirky stuff. We learned to draw Disney characters. I think you came along to one of those.
I did with the
and the guys taught you how to draw Disney characters.
Yeah, we drew Pluto together, I think.
Yeah, that's a really interesting thing to do. So we liked that. There were lots of opportunity for character meet and greets, to meet with Mickey and Minnie and all those guys. And we'd heard some bad things about that. Again, that there were lots of queues. It was actually really boring to wait and really difficult to get to see the characters. Not our experience. There were some queues, but pretty short queues. And we probably never waited more than 10 or 15 minutes for a character meet and greet. Which is not a problem at all. That's fine. I think most people are happy to wait 10 or 15 minutes. So the kids loved that. The 6-year-old particularly loved that. Lots of game shows going on, which we took the opportunities to get involved in. And yes, I won a medal, and I'm very proud of my medal. I should have worn it around my neck for this, actually, so I could say I had it on. And I think, my advice would be, if you want to really make the most of your cruise, get involved in stuff. They're very careful, the Disney entertainment crew, to get people involved in a friendly way. They would never do anything if they thought it would embarrass you. So my advice is absolutely get involved, figure out what's going on, and go and try things.
Oh, absolutely.
So that was kind of the daytime stuff, I suppose.
And then sorry, go ahead.
Go on.
You. So then on to the bigger shows at night. What did you think of them? Or did you have a favorite one? Or
well, we went to all of them.
Okay.
Actually, we went every night. So they were quite late. I can't to be honest remember exactly what time they started, but they tend to finish about 9:30.
Right.
So after a busy day, that's quite late for small kids to be up. But we took the opportunity to go to them all every night because we felt we had to. It was a very important part of the cruise, so we felt we'd be missing out if we didn't go. And I suppose the simple answer to did we enjoy them, how good were they? A very tired 6-year-old managed to stay awake to the end of them every night.
So that's just something there.
So that's fantastic.
Right.
And we loved them actually. So there was a good mix. There were some Disney stage shows, which we thought were of very good quality, really good, very, very entertaining, good acting, good singing. So loved the stage shows, but mixed in with, there was a magic act one night who was really good. There was some comedy stuff going on. There was a juggler. So good variety. And we loved the evening stuff, really good. My advice would be try and get there at least 10 to 15 minutes before it starts and get a seat near the front, because that gets you involved. If you're closer to the stage, you do feel more involved, I think, with what's going on. And in a few of the shows, there definitely is an opportunity for the kids to put their hand up in the air and to be chosen and to possibly go on stage. If you've got kids that like that sort of thing, go sit near the front, make sure they shove their hands in the air.
Perfect. Yeah, I think we made it to most of them. We missed the juggler, which I wish we would have seen, because I heard that not just from you guys, but from other people on the ship, how it was just an amazing show. So
yeah, the juggler was amazing. Yeah, really, really good, and English, of course.
I think our kids went to the kids club that night. They just wanted to go and burn off some energy. So, well, awesome. So let's talk a little bit about the ports and what you did there. So, as we said, it was the Disney Magic. We left out of Dover. The first day was a sea day. And then the next day we came into Stavanger. And if I'm saying any of these ports wrong, please correct me. But what did you think of Stavanger, and what did you guys do there?
So as I'm sure lots of people will know, you have the opportunity when you get into a port to either go on an official Disney excursion, which you'll have pre-booked, or to just get off the boat and go and do your own thing. So Stavanger was the one port where we'd actually pre-booked a Disney excursion.
Okay.
So we chose to go on the 4-hour bus tour around Stavanger. And we liked that one because our theory on excursions is if you've got small kids, you probably, most days, you don't want to go on a full day, 8-hour trip. Some people might do. But for us, an 8-hour trip, that's just too long to entertain a 6-year-old and a 10-year-old on. So we didn't really look at any of those longer excursions that Disney were offering for any of the ports. And also, quite a lot of the excursions that Disney put on are walking tours, where you'd go on an official walking tour around the port or the town that's near the port. And again, most of those are kind of 2 hours long, and 2 hours walking around a port for a 6-year-old, that's kind of a long thing to do when you're not in control of when you can take a rest and you can go and have an ice cream. So we liked the Stavanger one because it was a 4-hour trip, nice medium length, and it was a bus tour. So we stopped at 4 different places. We stopped at an old Stone Age, Iron Age, one or the other, Iron Age, Stone Age. I should know the difference, Steve should know, really. I think it was probably Iron Age. They're probably only a few thousand years apart.
Right.
So an Iron Age settlement, and had a look around there, which is really interesting.
Was that on the island?
No, it's on the main. No, it's on the mainland.
Okay.
It's on the mainland. Yeah, up by the university.
Okay.
So that was pretty interesting. We went to a big 3 swords monument where these huge big swords had been carved out and placed into the ground, and that was kind of nice. And then we went off to the Petrol Museum, which is for the oil industry, and that sounds like the most boring thing in the world, but actually it's not. And we spent a good hour in there, and it was interesting for kids because there were a huge amount of scale models of oil rigs that people had built up. So actually, for an hour, it was pretty interesting. And we also went to another Viking museum in Stavanger. So the 4 hours passed by pretty quickly. We probably had 30 to 45 minutes in each of those places, with 15 to 20 minutes on the coach in between. So you weren't on the coach long enough that you thought, I've had enough of this, and you were never in any of the places long enough to get bored. So that worked out really well. I'd give Disney pretty much 10 out of 10 for that excursion. It was nice.
Perfect. And then you guys, as you said, you tended to, after you got back, would either come back onto the boat or just explore the downtown area as the day went on.
Yeah, I think it's Stavanger, actually. By the time we got back on the ship, it was maybe 2:00, something like that. So I think that day we just stayed on the ship and went and did badly at some quizzes or something.
And so the next day was the only, well, other than the first day at sea, it rained. But the day in Ålesund, it sprinkled a little bit. But overall, it wasn't really that bad of weather. What did you guys do there?
Yeah, as you say, we were really, really lucky with the weather. And it was hot and sunny pretty much every day, except for Ålesund. And even then, it rained a little bit, but it was fine. So we got off and we just walked around. We just walked around and explored the town on our own. It's not a big town. It's a pretty town. It's not actually, in many respects, that old because they had a big fire a couple of hundred years ago, and nearly all the buildings burnt down. So they'd had to rebuild the town. Not a huge amount to see. There's a nice park that you can walk around. But we actually went off and discovered the town museum, the Ålesund Town Museum, which turned out to be very interesting. Actually, lots of stuff in there. There was a lifeboat that some guys had sailed all the way from Norway across to the States to prove that covered lifeboats were the safest type of lifeboats, as you do. So, Ålesund was nice. It was a nice place to walk around for a couple of hours. We'd on TripAdvisor found a local restaurant in Ålesund that had a really good review, so we stopped off there, had a great lunch in there, and then walked back to the boat. So we were probably in Ålesund for, I guess, 3 hours, something like that, 3.5 hours before we got back on the boat.
Perfect. And we kind of did the same thing. That day we took a bus tour out to, it was kind of it was an ancient kind of village that was probably from the 1700s, kind of the way they lived back in that time, kind of and they were the actual houses from the 1700s. Mm-hmm. So you could climb into them and see how big the rooms were and whatnot. And then they had like a little area where there was some Viking boats, some ships that they were restoring as well. but we kind of did the same thing after that.
But you did some full day tours as well, didn't you? Some full day excursions. Did you find those too long?
No, actually, we kind of did the same thing you did. The first 3 ports, we probably did about a half day. We were back on the boat. Okay. Generally, like about 1 to 2, because we kind of felt the same. Our kids are the same age, and so we kind of felt the same way you did. I think it's dependent. It would be dependent upon your kids as to whether they could do that. But I think most kids are probably going to get bored after a while. Like you said, an 8-hour bus trip, kind of. Mm-hmm. They're gonna run out of steam at some point along the way.
Yeah, exactly.
So we kind of did generally the same thing. Although the first one in Stavanger, we took a boat trip, and that was maybe a little bit longer, where the boat went up to because we didn't have enough time on a boat, so we got off one boat and we got on another boat. And went up into the fjords that looked out over Pulpit Rock, which that was kind of neat to see.
Yeah, I think it's difficult for Disney, isn't it, to please everybody. Right. I would have liked more excursions available that were kind of around the 4-hour length, but didn't have really long bus rides as part of that. But Disney are a bit stuck, aren't they? The reality is, if Pulpit Rock is the most interesting thing to see, right, and Pulpit Rock's an hour bus ride away, right, then that's just how it is, isn't it? There's nothing Disney can do about that.
And there was one other thing in our 2 cruises that we've taken with Disney that I've noticed as well. If depending upon your kids, our kids, we do a lot of kayaking up here in the Northwest, and so they're really familiar with being in a kayak. They like it, they enjoy it. But if you went through Disney and a couple of the different ports, they limited the age to 12 years and older. So our kids are 6 and 10, and they could easily go on a kayak. They're, like I said, they're pretty familiar. So the one thing I have noticed is if you book something outside of Disney, like through Cruise Critic, if you can find a local company maybe, they tend to be a little bit more younger in the age as far as letting kids do that. So if you have kids that are a little bit more adventurous and are willing to do something like that, if you look at the Disney excursions, you might, and they limit the age there, you might look elsewhere to be able to go and do that kind of stuff too. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And a few people had said to us, actually, it's easy to find excursions for some of the ports locally as well. If you search on the internet, you can find excursions without too much difficulty. Don't just necessarily rely on what Disney are offering. That's not necessarily everything there is to do. Just because it's not on Disney's website doesn't mean it's not available.
Right. I think it's a good starting. To me, it was a good starting point to look and see what they had to offer. To see, okay, what is there in the port, and then kind of like you did, kind of go from there. Maybe
look around,
Critic or TripAdvisor or whatnot. So from there, we went on to Ålesund. We went on to Geiranger. The big trip up the fjord. What did you think of that? That was amazing, wasn't it?
Well, it is beautiful. It's just one of the most beautiful places that I've ever been to, I guess. And we were so lucky because it was a beautiful day. The sun was shining. There wasn't a cloud in the sky. So a perfect day to be in a just a beautiful fjord. There's nothing much there. It's a beautiful fjord. So it's kind of it has a tiny little village, but it's a tourist village with shops selling souvenirs, and that's what it is. So you get off the ship and you walk around the village, and then you can walk up quite a steep path actually along the side of a river past a little waterfall up to a fjord museum at the top. So it's probably a 30-minute walk each way, I guess, something like that. You did it as well, didn't you, I think?
Yeah, we did.
So that's what we did. We just walked around for a couple of hours, and once you've climbed up to where the museum is, the view back down over the fjord is just beautiful. And if you want to see how amazing your cruise ship looks sat in this fjord, that's the way to do it.
Oh, definitely. Did you get up early? I didn't make it up until 6 in the morning, I guess. I got up at 6 and walked around the top part of the ship and got some just great pictures. It was kind of foggy a little bit off and on as we were coming into the fjord, but there were tons of people up there, and I guess they had breakfast and coffee and juice and everything else up there.
No, we did. We were already. I think we were just mooring as we got up. Actually, I think we were pretty much in the fjord and just mooring up. But obviously, then when you leave in the evening, you leave about 5 o'clock, I think, something like that, wasn't it?
Right.
So you have the perfect opportunity before dinner just to stand on the deck and just watch as you sail out of the field. And there's some fantastic waterfalls that you go past on the way out. I think the Seven Sisters is the most famous waterfall, and it's just absolutely spectacular. If you like taking photographs, there's probably not many better places to take photographs than there.
And that's a good point, because you go out the same way you come in. So if you didn't want to get up early in the morning, you're going to get some of the same scenery as you leave in the evening. So that's a good point too, to just take it in as you leave. And then from there, the final port we pulled into is Bergen, which was one of the places I was really looking forward to going, which is part of the reason why we booked our cruise to Norway. Is my mother's family came not from Bergen, but from a small town probably about 30 minutes away. So I was really excited to see that part of Norway. And what were your thoughts of Bergen?
So I guess Bergen's quite a big town, really, and I'd been to Bergen before. So we did what we did all of the other days except Stavanger, which was to just get off the ship on our own and walk into town. And the big thing to do in Bergen is to take the funicular railway up to the top of a mountain. There's a big mountain called Mount Floyen, which looks back down over the town of Bergen. And the advice we'd been given was try and get to that funicular railway station pretty early, because it's the big thing to do. Everybody gets off the ship and does it, so the queues do tend to build up. So we were there, I don't remember, maybe 9:30. We got there before 10 o'clock anyway, and we queued for 5-10 minutes to get on the funicular. And then we went up the mountain, and on top of the mountain, it's kind of what you'd expect. There's a gift shop, and you can have a coffee, and there's a park that you can walk around with some play equipment. So we wandered around there for 45 minutes, came back down, and then just walked around the town. And I guess Bergen's got something for everybody, but it's probably more of a town for adults than in any of the other places. So there's lots and lots of museums, if you like, art galleries and historical museums. Bergen has all of those sort of things in abundance. So we didn't do those because our kids are too young to stare at portraits for a few hours. But certainly Bergen has that available if that was the sort of thing you were interested in.
Yeah, we really enjoyed it. We didn't book an excursion that day. That was kind of our down day. We felt like, and so we kind of did what you guys did. We walked in, took the funicular up, and it was a great day just to hang out and kind of. I think we got an ice cream at one point and just sat out and just people watched and went through some of the different shops. It was just a really nice, easy city. Although, if anything, and one of the things I was really surprised in when I was kind of there was tourist shops everywhere we went along the way through Norway, but it definitely I never felt like it was ever over touristy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess the thing about Bergen is because everybody walks along the same street to get from the ship into town, then that one street that you walk alongside the main port is kind of going to have a lot of tourist shops, just because that's the passing traffic, isn't it?
Right. And
pretty much 90% of people who walk along that street have come off a cruise ship.
Right.
So of course the shops are going to be touristy shops. But it kind of felt like one of those towns where actually if you went just slightly off to one side down some little back alley, you'd come across a small interesting shop selling some quirky items. So we did a bit of that. We did some walking around down some little old back alleys just to see what was down there, and there were shops selling, little old wooden sculptures and all sorts of strange things.
Definitely, and actually that was as kind of a side little joke, which I was unable to play on you, but that was where we found just incredible antique shop. I mean, it was just packed with stuff. You could barely walk around it, and it was just. From nautical things to anything you could think of in there. So I was looking for a medal to get for you, since you were doing all the quiz shows and everything like that, to make sure that you got a medal before you left the ship. But you one-upped me and won it before I got a chance to give it to you.
That was very kind of you. But yes, did I mention I did win a medal?
I think you did mention that. And I promised that at some point in the... once I get this show up and running, maybe I'll get you to send me a picture of you with the medal around your neck so we can add it to the podcast for the show notes so everybody can see it.
I could do that. Don't get your hopes up, folks. It's not Olympic gold medal standard. It's not that good.
Well, I won't even go on the side note there with the Olympics going on right now. Anyway, so great. So overall, as far as your take on the cruise, sounds like you guys had a great time as a family and just an overall good experience.
Yeah, an overall fantastic experience. We absolutely loved it. I think we've said already, we were lucky. The weather was great. So the sea was nice and calm and flat. We had almost no rain the whole time. So from that perspective, our first experience couldn't have been any better. But even if we hadn't had that, Norway was beautiful. The entertainment on the ship was great. The stateroom was perfect. So, overall, Disney did a great job, actually.
Awesome. So, 2 more questions, and then I'll let you go. Do you have any recommendations, since this was your first cruise and first Disney cruise? Would you have any recommendations for others that were thinking about booking a Disney cruise for the first time?
So, I guess I've kind of tried to do a couple as we've gone along. I suppose I have a bit of advice about the main dinner. So there are 2 choices of seating, of when you have your dinner, main seating or late seating.
Right.
And certainly my advice would be, if you have kids, you definitely want to go for that main seating. And then the way that works is you're eating around 6 o'clock, I think it was, and then you go and see the show afterwards. And then after the show, you probably want to get your kids straight into bed. I don't think I'd have enjoyed it if we'd have done it the other way around. So where we'd gone to the show first and then had a late dinner. Because I think by that stage, you'd have been so tired that actually you'd have been ready for bed, and you really wouldn't have wanted to be sitting down eating at that point. So we chose main seating, and I think that's definitely the smart way to do it, actually.
Yeah, definitely. I feel the same way there on that. I think that's great advice. And then I guess the last question I have for you, and I'll throw it out in this kind of perspective. The first time I took a cruise, I kind of went kicking and screaming, I'll be completely honest. I wasn't sure that it was something that I really wanted to do. But once we got on the ship, the thing that surprised me the most was, I mean, I love the food, I love the entertainment and whatnot, but being my job, or my regular job, is a pilot for an airline, and before that, I flew cargo planes for the U.S. military. And so what really fascinated me about the ship and being on the ship was the logistics of how they move it from point A to point B, how they're staffing it, how they get the food on and off. So that's something that whenever I go on a cruise now, I just find that absolutely fascinating to see how all that works and kind of watch as we come into port. And I guess my question to you was there something that surprised you that maybe stepped out to you as to really caught your attention as what you liked about the cruise, or why you would want to take another cruise? Does this make sense, the question I'm asking?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think what stood out for us is the amount that was available to do on the ship. So I was worried that it's a cruise, you're stuck on a ship. So when you're not in the port, what do you do?
Right.
Are you going to be sat there after 2 days thinking, well, I've kind of been to the shop, I don't want any more food, I'm bored, what do I do now? But I can honestly say we never had a single moment in the whole cruise where we were sat thinking, we've got nothing to do. There was always something to get involved in. We haven't really talked about Kids Club. The Kids Clubs on Disney are great, and you used them quite a lot as a family, didn't you?
Yes.
We hardly used them at all. We probably put our kids in the Kids Club for maybe 2 hours in total on the whole cruise. So we never really felt the need to do that. And our kids weren't bothered. Some kids really want to do Kids Club, and that's great.
Right.
Ours weren't too bothered about that. They were perfectly happy to go for an hour, but they were more happy to do things with us as a family. That's just kind of how we do it.
Right.
So the biggest surprise was that you weren't bored.
And just the amount of entertainment that there was to keep you going. There
was always something, there was a little show or a quiz or a game show or a crafting session. There was always something that you could go and try your hand at. And even if you did something once and you didn't really like it, fine, go try something else. So my biggest bit of advice is every evening before you go to bed, they drop a planner through your door telling you exactly what's going on in the boat, on the ship the next day. And we didn't spend hours looking at that planner. But every morning we'd look through and figure out what were the really interesting things that were going on that day that we wanted to go and try. So much to do. So that was probably the biggest surprise. Just didn't get bored at all the whole time.
Perfect. So it leads me to my last question. Would you do it again? And if so, where would you go?
So yes, absolutely. Loved it. And as soon as we got back, in fact, we probably made a mistake because you get a discount on the boat if you book another cruise while you're on board,
right? Which
we didn't do, and we should have done, having looked back on it. But hey, doesn't matter, lesson learned.
Definitely.
So the first thing we did when we came back was say, right, kids, do you want to do another one? Yeah, absolutely. And we'd actually been planning in 2017 that we would come back to Disney World in Florida for 2 weeks. So we did Disney World in 2014. And we said to the kids, which would you rather do? Would you rather go back to Disney World for 2 weeks, or would you rather go on another Disney cruise? Disney cruise, every time. So we booked. And in May 2017, we're taking another Disney cruise around the Baltic. So starting off in Copenhagen and visiting five different countries: Estonia, Russia, Finland, Sweden, back to Denmark. Can't wait. Absolutely can't wait. Really excited.
Amazing. And I think I told you this before, but I just want to throw this out to those of you listening as well. During the cruise, I was taking the Magic is one of the ships that Disney has that actually goes outside of the Caribbean, as we've been talking about, and goes throughout the Mediterranean, up into Iceland even, the Baltic, Norway. And so the crew has been to quite a few different places around the world, and I was doing kind of a little unofficial survey, where's your favorite place? Everybody that I ran into that I'd start a conversation with, I'd ask them, crew members that is, where's your favorite place? What have you liked traveling to the most? And hands down, 90% of them said the Baltic. So I'm really looking forward to hearing about your guys' experience up there, because it just sounds like an amazing place and an amazing cruise.
Yeah, can't wait. Really, really excited. I've been to some of the countries before, but I've never been to Denmark. I've never been to Estonia. So really, really looking forward to going to explore those places. And we'll probably do it slightly differently because they're bigger cities. So you won't be able, in most cases, to walk into the cities. So we will take a lot more formal Disney excursions, I think, and go and explore that way.
Well, perfect, John. Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show today. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk to us about it and your experiences. And I hope that we can stay in touch, and I'd love to bring you back on after you guys come back from the Baltic, or maybe even sooner if you have any other experiences you want to share with us. Sure,
that'd be great.
All right, well, thanks again, and I look forward to talking to you soon.
Thanks, Steve.
Wow. Well, I hope you had as much fun listening to that show as I did editing it and going back and reliving the time that we spent in Norway with John and his family. And this show ran a little bit longer than what I'm probably going to normally put out, but John had so many great points, and it was just a pleasure to talk to. Just an amazing family. So I hope you enjoyed today's show. I want to thank you, as always, for listening. And if you want to get in contact with me about possibly coming on the show and sharing your experiences, or just talking about Disney Cruise Line or travel in general, you can reach out to me at DCL Podcast on Twitter. Once again, that's on Twitter at DCL Podcast. And hopefully between now and the next show, I'm going to have my Facebook page up and running. As always, I'd like to wish you and your family safe travels wherever your next vacation or cruise takes you. We'll see you next time on episode 3 of the DCL Podcast.